gunpowder treason and plot, I see no reason why Catholic treason should ever be forgot. It's interesting that we call the 5th of November Guy Fawkes Night, but Guy Fawkes Night was a very small player in this whole conspiracy, I suppose is the word. He was somebody who was not a major player, and he certainly wasn't one of the key movers and shakers in pulling the threat along. He was somebody who was useful because he'd spent a long time abroad. Nobody knew who he was. Now this implies something very important about the city of Westminster in the early 1600s. It was filled with people who wanted to know everybody else's business. James I's key minister, Cecil, who had been Queen Elizabeth's advisor, had a network of spies like no other. The chances were pretty slim. We know the plot was probably betrayed by Tresham and Lord Monteagle. We know too that that intelligence was brought to Cecil's attention a good fortnight before the 5th of November. So we can assume that Cecil knew full well what was going on. What they were doing was with the full knowledge of the authorities, who were just waiting for the right moment to stop them. They were unlucky with their circumstances, really, the Guy Fawkes plotters. They had quite a good plan worked out, and then Parliament didn't open on the day that it was planned because there was a sweating sickness. And so the whole of London was evacuated. By the time they got around to the 5th of November 1605, their plan was already 18 months overdue. Now, during that 18 months, obviously they needed money. In order to get more money, they had to invite more people to conspire, and therefore they made keeping things secret much more difficult. Can we assume that even if the plot had gone ahead successfully and that the Palace of Westminster had been blown up, that there would have been all over England a spontaneous rising of people reclaiming Catholicism? Catholics were certainly deprived of civil rights. They weren't allowed to practice Catholic ritual. There were a great deal of restrictions. Queen Elizabeth was associated with. Now, she came to the throne in 1558. The Pope had put a death threat on her, said that if anybody murdered her, this would be, a guaranteed passport to paradise forever. 50 years before was that the English Reformation had moved England away from the Holy Catholic Church to a Protestant church. It's quite clear that this isn't a Protestant versus Catholic plot, because many Catholic fathers, a bit wiser, a bit more mature, or perhaps who just wanted a quiet life, were quite happy to settle for continuing to live a life of restriction. They would have seen this idea that all over England, people would be inspired to rise to support the Catholic Church. There was a law passed in 1606 to say, from now on, by law, every year, there will be celebrations involving bonfires and fireworks. So you could say that for a long time the celebration was engaged in because that was the law. That was a law that was dropped in the 19th century. But as I say, November is a miserable month. It's quite nice to have bonfires and fireworks and guys and some form of celebration.
Huh?